Hi, I'm Mark Mancini with VRBO Outstanding, and this week's episode is on sargassum. So welcome back. Now, for those of you who are in the South Florida area, you're very familiar with what sargassum is. People refer to it generally as seaweed. And from around late April, mid-April through September, this is what our beach looks like. Now, when we first looked at this property and put an offer on it, it was just white sand. There was no seaweed because it was earlier in the season. And they took the pictures just in time. Then we closed on the property, came down to visit, and we were greeted to this. Now, we usually clean this up about once a week. A pitchfork and wheelbarrow, when we sometimes haul it off in the corner, but oftentimes we just have our landscapers come and they have a big truck, they take it all in and take it away. Now, for those couple guys and the truck to haul it away, it's $1,000, $1,200 each week to do that. It's not cheap, but you do it and it's gonna look good for about a couple hours and then it's gonna all come back. It's an exercise in futility. So what we've decided to go with is a seaweed barrier. Now there's a couple options you can do. They have barriers and they have bubblers. No matter which you go with, you need to get approval from the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection. Once they approve it, then it has to go to the Army Corps of Engineers. Once they approve it, then it goes to your local city to get approved, and that's pretty much just a rubber stamp because those other two federal agencies kind of know what they're doing. Now, because of COVID and because it's government, the application process just for the DEP and Army Corps is about 18 months. Okay, now aside from being so long, you have to pay a surveyor, you have to get what's called a benthic study done, and do all these things, and it's going to cost you $20 to $30, sometimes even $40,000 just to get the application in. And you have to do it right the first time, because if you just try to do it yourself and it doesn't go through properly, it goes through a very long process, and then 18 months, it's going to take 4 years because they don't want to have to keep coming back to you and ask questions. They want all the information in one shot. That's why you pay that kind of money for this. So we hired a company out of South Florida that another place down the road used for their seaweed barrier, which looks great. So what our proposed plan is, and hopefully you can visualize this with me, but over by the fence where the gate is, where the opening in the rocks is, it's going to go parallel to the beachfront, all the way out in front of the concrete pad and bend a little bit. And then we're going to have an opening for the kayaks and jet skiers, because obviously we've got kayaks and jet skis for, kayaks and paddleboards for guests to use. And when I come down, I bring my jet ski and I want a way to get out of there. So we don't want people to go across the barrier. So the barrier is going to come across, it's going to have an opening, and it's going to go perpendicular back to the concrete pad over here. And that should mitigate it, because what this barrier does, it floats on the surface several inches up. It also has about 8 inches or so below with netting to prevent it from going under. And it'll kind of trap it all out there and hopefully accumulate and start pushing its way out of there. Some will get through, but it won't be this, okay? And if it cuts this 80%, I'll be happy. Occasionally, I may have to go out there and push some of it out, but the seaweed barriers, they're held down by fasteners and also by anchors. So in case of a storm that comes in the area, or when a storm comes, because there's always a hurricane every year, it can be detached and removed in case you want to remove it for the storm so it doesn't have any damage to it. Now there's something else that they use, then they're bubblers. And these bubblers, they go under the water, and they're just that. They shoot air from a compressor, and the bubbles kind of push the seaweed. Seaweed will come close, and the bubblers push it away. Okay, so it keeps it away from getting towards the netting and so forth. But with that running all the time, there's the cost of electricity, and there's also in time, parts are going to break. Okay, whereas the barrier, pretty much it's a one and done type of thing. Sargassum, it's part of the Keys. It's part of South Florida. It's what the turtles need and use. It's what mahi, because you go out in the Gulf Stream 3 miles out here and that's what attracts and brings the mahi-mahi. So if you want the fresh fish, you also have to deal with the sargassum that goes along with it. And you'll see blobs of sargassum floating out there, and those mahi are underneath it in the shade, and that's where they usually go fishing for them. So the sargassum, you kind of have to have it. It's part of the ecosystem. But when guests come, we always tell them ahead of time. We set their expectations. Look, late April through September, oftentimes it's May, but with the storms, the spring storms, it's been April. There's gonna be sargassum. We'll come clean it once a week, but literally after they're done cleaning it, later that day, if not by the next morning, it is pretty much gonna be back almost exactly the way it was. This was all cleaned about a week ago, and this is a week, and you can see it's probably 15, 20 feet deep. This is some thick stuff. If you look here, the dry sargassum is easy to come up. The wet's a lot heavier, but again, with a pitchfork, we just pitchfork it up. One thing I also want to make a comment about is a lot of you with your bathrooms in your short-term rental, some of you have the wall mount shampoo, conditioner, body wash, but then some of you have those little bottles for guests, and you try to get real nice little bottle, like brand names and so forth for guests to use like they have at hotels. We've never done that, and I am not a fan of that, and I'm going to explain why. Because cruise ships almost every night go by here, and you'll see them across the horizon with the lights on, and a lot of them are from other countries, not the United States, and they have different views of the laws, and they will dispose of garbage overboard, whereas Americans won't. So what you'll see, for instance, what washes up on our shore, and it aggravates me to no end, a lot of times these travel size containers, and often the smaller ones too, that they have on cruise ships, okay? This is where your stuff ends up. It's in landfills, it ends up on shore. I know some of you like these, but honestly, rethink your environment and your decisions with this. You know, if you're gonna provide shampoo, conditioner, get the wall ones and refill them so that this way you don't have this waste that we have to fill in landfills and destroy our environment with. You know, this is a zero footprint environment in the Florida Keys, and we have to deal with, you know, what floats up on shore, and every single day it's a shampoo, conditioner, body wash bottle. So I'm on my soapbox for a reason. Again, we don't supply it. We want guests to bring their own, because everyone's gonna have their own preference for what they enjoy using. And I've never had a complaint in over 500 bookings in 11 years of people saying, oh, they don't supply shampoo and conditioner. That's up to the person traveling. I always travel with my own. Everyone else does too. I think you're thinking too far into it, and you're spending money on areas you shouldn't, okay? But again, avoid those travel size ones, please, okay? Now getting back to sargassum, again, this is a seasonal thing, and this is why when we have weddings here at the Keys, weddings are usually either in the fall or the spring, and usually by April things start slowing down. And here we are filming this in late April, and it's started a little early because we had some storms, some winds kick up. Winds will definitely move this a lot quicker. And since we're over here, I might as well just show you our tiki, where we have a wedding coming in for next Saturday. We've got a wedding next Saturday, and then 2 more weeks after that, we have 1 more wedding, and that'll close out our spring wedding season. We've got 1 summer wedding that we're doing, and then fall starts around October. We've got 3 weddings in October, but we have weddings here because we've got the space for parking, we've got the large tiki, and we've got the views. And our guests want to have an exotic beachfront wedding that's private, where no one's going to bother them. And this is what we do here. And for those of you who've got the opportunity to do weddings at your short-term rental, reach out to me. We'll do some one-on-one consulting, and I'll help show you how you can increase your bookings and revenue by hosting weddings at your short-term rental. Sargassum, though, it's an 18-month or more process to get all the permits, but it's definitely worth doing. So for those of you in South Florida who have beachfront properties, this is something you want to do. So thanks for joining us this week, and probably later this week you'll see me out here pitchforking this. Thanks for joining us. Remember, hit the like and subscribe button below. Always ask questions and comments, and we will see you again next week.